The United States military is preparing contingency plans for the possibility of sustained weeks-long operations against Iran, according to two U.S. officials. Now, the preparations come amid escalating tensions and signal that any potential strike ordered by President Trump could go far beyond limited action, raising the prospect of a much broader conflict between the two countries. Take a look.
The U.S. military is preparing for the possibility of sustained weeks-long operations against Iran if President Donald Trump orders an attack in what could become a far more serious conflict than previously seen between the countries. That's according to two U.S. officials who spoke on condition of anonymity due to the sensitive nature of the planning. The disclosure raises the stakes for the diplomacy underway between the United States and Iran. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will hold negotiations with Iran on Tuesday in Geneva, with representatives from Oman acting as mediators. On Saturday, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Trump's preference was to reach a deal with Tehran, but said, quote, "That's very hard to do." Meanwhile, Trump has amassed military forces in the region, raising fears of new military action. U.S. officials said on Friday the Pentagon was sending an additional aircraft carrier to the Middle East, adding thousands more troops along with firepower capable of waging attacks and defending against them.
No action.
On Friday, Trump was asked if he'd want to see regime change in Iran.
Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen. For 47 years, they've been talking and talking and talking. In the meantime, we've lost a lot of lives.
Trump has long voiced skepticism about sending ground troops into Iran, and the kinds of U.S. firepower arrayed into the Middle East so far suggest options for strikes primarily by air and naval forces. Asked for comment on the preparations for a potentially sustained U.S. military operation, a White House spokesperson said, quote, "President Trump has all options on the table with regard to Iran." The Pentagon declined to comment. In a sustained campaign, the U.S. military could hit Iranian state and security facilities, not just nuclear infrastructure, one of the officials said, who declined to provide specific details. Experts say the risks to U.S. forces would be far greater in such an operation against Iran, which boasts a formidable arsenal of missiles. Trump has repeatedly threatened to bomb Iran over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs and crushing of internal dissent. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has warned that, in case of strikes on Iranian territory, it could retaliate against any U.S. military base.
Meanwhile, Iran has signaled flexibility in its nuclear negotiations with the United States. In a BBC interview, Tehran's deputy foreign minister said Iran is prepared to compromise on its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, but only if Washington lifts sanctions that have battered its economy. The remarks come as nuclear talks resumed in Oman and are set to continue in Geneva this week. Several countries, including Russia, have offered to take responsibility for the stockpile, an offer Iran has so far refused. Iran had been enriching uranium to 60%, well above the 3.67% limit allowed by the now-defunct 2015 nuclear agreement, and close to 90% needed to make a bomb, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly called for zero enrichment in Iran as the only possible solution to the long-standing sanctions. And as U.S.-Iran nuclear diplomacy regains momentum, Israel is drawing a red line. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says any deal between Washington and Tehran must go beyond halting uranium enrichment. It must dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure altogether. Now, speaking at a major Jewish leaders' conference, Netanyahu revealed he conveyed the message directly to U.S. President Donald Trump last week. Listen in.
I will not hide from you that I express my skepticism of any deal with Iran because, frankly, Iran is reliable on one thing. They lie and they cheat. But I said that if a deal is to be reached, it should have several components that we believe are important not only for the security of Israel, but for the security of the world. there shall be no enrichment capability. Not stopping the enrichment process, but dismantle the equipment and the infrastructure that allows you to enrich in the first place.